Had to stop and get some coffee real quick. Good old Starbucks. I don't really drink it too often. I just love their cold brew. Everything else to me tastes like burnt grossness, and it's way overpriced. I know. Dunkin'. But yeah, basically just wanted to talk today. Some tips and tricks when looking to buy, especially like a new Harley-Davidson, and a lot of stuff I learned along the way. One of the first things being Harley loves you to finance, and I figured out why. It's not because the salesmen get like kickbacks or whatever. They actually do it because they get allocated their units based off the financing. And my understanding is for like a Sportster S, if they finance it, they get 0.5 of a unit, so they get a half of a unit of a new motorcycle, you know, from Harley. So that's beneficial to them because they have more units, and if you have more units, you're going to get more business. So I learned that right off the bat. Even though I bought this cash, I was fortunate enough to do that and worked really hard and saved up. But I was fortunate enough to do that, and I'm like, oh man, cash is king. Like, you can walk in somewhere with cash and be like, hey, give me that bike, and they're like, yeah, you got cash. Not so much anymore these days. It seems like they're more incentivized to actually get you to finance. So that's one thing I learned, especially with Harley dealers. Gosh, that truck is huge. So yeah, that was kind of my first experience. Is they want you to come in and really just talk to them, and they hope to get you to finance. In my case, I worked with Seminole Harley, a little bit past Orlando, or maybe it's technically Orlando. But yeah, they were great. Even though I didn't finance through them, they were still amazing. So yeah, definitely find a dealership you're comfortable with, one that is professional and not pushy. I can tell you, I had many experiences with other Harley dealerships, and I can tell you Seminole was the best, at least in my opinion. The other places I went to, I won't mention one of them because they were just so terrible, but I went to Brandon Harley, Lakeland Harley, and the one that I won't mention was absolutely terrible. They tried to sell me a used 2021 Sportster S for about almost $25,000, which is absolutely ridiculous considering the 2022s are now, I believe, $15,900 from Harley. So I think they were just trying to capitalize on the rareness of the bike and not a lot of dealers having it. You know, kind of similar to what Ford was doing with the Bronco. I feel like some Harley dealerships are trying to cash in on that, and you know, more power to them. They want to make money. They're in the money-making business. That's great, but you're not going to get one over on this guy. So as they say here in the South, don't get got, or however that saying goes. But I did my research. You know, I got referred by Blockhead, which was great and helped, I'm sure, immensely to where they wanted to make a deal with me. They actually traded one of their bikes that they had in stock that another dealership wanted, and traded them to get this one to me. So they really tried. They made the deal happen. They got me a brand new one for way less than the unnamed Harley dealership that I'm not going to talk about. But kind of another point I want to bring up is, do not be afraid to walk away. A lot of dealers, probably in general, like to play pricing games, and the one thing I hate in a dealership is when you walk in and you got like the GM or like the owner sometimes, but it's probably mainly the GM, They have an elevated desk, like in the middle of the dealership, where they sit on their high throne, and all their salespeople and managers go to them to try to make deals, and they feel all high and mighty and powerful. As soon as you see that, or at least me, as soon as I see that in a dealership, I already have my mind made up. Nope, I ain't buying from here. The cool thing I noticed about Seminole Harley and meeting Melissa, the owner, she was there late. She was down in the ditches with her people. Saw her, you know, cleaning up and doing paperwork and stuff, and she's the owner, man. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, this is a place I want to do business with. And they didn't have some elevated tower with a sales guy up there like, oh, I'm high and mighty and powerful, buy from me. No, they had a little like desk in the middle. It was level with everybody else. And they were just surrounded by bikes everywhere, brand new, used. They ring a bell whenever they sell one. And I saw bikes all over that place that had sold tags on them. So you know what? They move a lot of units. They know how to do business. They have good customer service. So I'm forever a customer of theirs, for sure. And they're probably one of the biggest Harley dealers I've seen personally. I've seen the one in Daytona. It's, you know, massive. I believe it had an escalator and 2 stories in it. But the Seminole Harley one was awesome. And they didn't play the game with me. The dealership I went to that tried to sell me a used Sportster with 3,000 miles on it for $25,000 was, you know, it was smaller. They weren't personable when you walked in. Like, I had to ask for someone to help me. Like, I walked in, there's all salespeople, and they were just kind of hanging out amongst each other, having some chili cook-off. I had to go and find someone like, hey, could someone help me? I got cash, I want to buy a bike. And it's like, they weren't excited about it. It was just a bad experience. And then coming out with the prices and doing it with a straight face. Like, I'm some dummy. Oh yeah, I'm gonna buy a used bike that had issues with it for $25,000 when it's brand new at 15, 16. And I understand, you know, there's dealer markups and there's crate fees and there's setting up of the bike, inspections, and, you know, tax, tag, title, whatever. But you want $25,000 on a used bike, bro? Like, get out of here. And funny enough, I ran into Blockhead there, and you know, Blockhead was the one that's like, dude, they are crazy. Do not do business with them. But in fact, go to Seminole Harley, ask for Melissa, tell her I sent you. And you know, I already told you guys that story, which it panned out. I got what I wanted. It was brand new, a year newer. But the big thing I could tell you is when I walked in there, and they kind of baited me getting in there like I was gonna get some awesome deal. So I drive all the way there. There was no awesome deal. You know, they come out with a piece of paper, they put it in 4 corners, and they write, you know, here's our price for it, and here's financing, here's your monthly payments. I'm like, I already told you guys I'm cash. Like, why are you showing me this? I don't care. You know, and I found out later that they get credit for units when they finance. So understandable, whatever. But to come at me with a stupid price like that, and they're like, well, what's your cash? So I tell them my cash, and they're like, oh, let me go to the GM with this and his high and mighty tower. And you know, they go up to him, they come back, yeah, here's where he's at. I'm like, yeah, he's crazy. And you know, it's sad when the salespeople outside, after I decide to walk away, and that's my other point, know when to walk away. I walked away, and they're all rolling their eyes like, this is why we can't sell anything, because they're ridiculous. And you know what? That's sad when your salespeople have to say that. And I don't want to name the dealership or the salesperson, but they clearly weren't happy there. They couldn't make sales. So understandably, they're upset. And you know, they're heavily marking up. I would say it is a rare bike, so I understand a little bit of markup, but $25,000, bro? Come on. That is ridiculous. Which, when I told Blockhead that, he had a few choice words that can't be repeated on YouTube. Myself included. But you know, I'm glad I went with Seminole Harley. I took his advice and actually called them, and they were legit. But don't be afraid to walk away. Do your research. Look up bikes. There's a lot of stuff online. But I can guarantee you, you find a dealership that wants to work with you, that wants to get your business, they're gonna move mountains to do it. And you know, my experience with Seminole Harley is great. Maybe it's not that way for everyone, but I can speak from my own experience in buying this bike, it was amazing. A big thing I think as well is bigger dealerships seem to have more pull. They get more units. The other thing is, I think, with newer units. Now, your smaller Harley dealerships probably can cut some good deals on used bikes because they get them on trade-in and stuff. But in my experience and my research, it seemed like the bigger dealerships were more eager for my business and actually had more units, especially coming to the Sportster S. So, you know, that's my recommendation. Do your research. Don't be afraid to walk away. And honestly, if you get a salesperson that is pushy, or their manager is, you know, just on a power trip, like I said, they're high and mighty tower, like, you know, they're the Pope or something, don't do business there. I mean, I just couldn't believe. I always heard good things about Harley dealerships and how they treat you like family and stuff like that. This one in particular was an absolute joke. You know, I felt like I would have got better service at a buy here, pay here, with terrible credit and you know, wistful money in my pocket. But just the way they acted, it was crazy. And just no care in the world. And I heard the guy, like, when the manager went to the supposed GM in his high and mighty tower about my cash offer, I heard him like cuss about it. Like, dude, how unprofessional are you? So some other advice I wanted to give, especially when buying a newer Harley, I would highly suggest finding the Harley truck. You know, they come and bring a semi-truck with all their new models, and they do like a little tour to different dealerships. I would highly suggest doing that and riding all the lineups. I did that actually twice before settling on that I wanted the Sportster S. I saw it, and, you know, in pictures and stuff, and I'm like, I want that. And, you know, it's, some say a smaller bike, but it really isn't. When you look at the size of the engine and stuff like that, and the frame. And do not worry about the stigma people give. The Sportsters are for girls. Are you kidding me, bro? 1200 cc's of power. This is not some sissy machine. And you just have those old school bikers, you know, the bagger boys. Oh, Sportsters are for girls. Oh, ride a real man's bike. Get out of here, dude. Okay, this thing has a lot of power, and it'll leave your little bagger in the dust, so no need for that. So if that's something that deters you, my advice is, don't care about what people think. Care about what makes you happy. Care about what you're comfortable on. Care about what is fun to ride for you. What fits your personality. For me, I came from super sports, so this Sportster S. What's up, bro? See, that's a nice bike. Look like a Road King, I think. But anyway, I came from super sports like ZX6Rs. I had 2 of those. Loved them to death. I'm 6'5". I am not a small guy, and that's what I rode. My first bike I actually owned was a ZX6R. It was a 2012. So I went from that to a Victory Vegas 8-ball. I hated it. It was chopper style. It was too heavy. And then I went back to a ZX6R. So for me, I loved super sports just because they're nimble, they're fast, and they're fun. So when I saw this Sportster S come out, where they're saying they're mashing a cruiser together with a sport bike, I was immediately like, oh my god, gotta get that. And then I was worried that it was going to be small, too small and all that, and saw the design on it. Wasn't a fan at first, actually. I was like, what's up with the ugly exhaust? But I love it. Now I like it, and I think there's going to be an aftermarket for it that is going to make it more appealing maybe to some people. I think it's okay. It's an okay look. People complain about the dual disc, whatever. But my point is, make sure you do your research. Go test ride stuff. If Harley's having an event in your town, go to it. They let me ride. They gave me this little Harley black card, and they let me ride all their new models like 10 different times, and no sales pressure, nothing. They're like, oh, you want to ride the Road King? Oh, you want to ride the Street Glide Special? Oh, go ahead, take the Sportster S for another spin. Big thing you're gonna see is call and ask for the price. Well, they want your information. They want you to call. It's okay. In my experience with almost all the dealerships, they wanted you to come in before they talk numbers, which is understandable. I made it very clear when I got this bike, especially from Seminole Harley, because they're so far away from my house. I'm like, guys, I'm not doing the whole come in and sit down and talk. Like, I did all the numbers with them on the phone, and that's not normal for a Harley dealership. So my experience is an exception to the rule. So I would definitely suggest go in and talk to them. And again, walk away if it's a bad deal. If they're not giving you a great experience, go buy from someone else, because you know what? Other Harley dealerships have the inventory. So I would highly suggest checking out a bike, test riding it, look for the Harley truck, and go ahead and hop on a couple seats. If anything, you just have a lot of fun. You're getting to freely test ride all these bikes. And the event I went to, it wasn't like you're in a parking lot going around some cones test riding. No, they had a rider in the front and a rider in the back that was staff, and they took you on the highway. It was a good 10-minute ride where we actually got to ride and get up to highway speed, go around some curves. Like, they did it right, and it was an awesome experience. And really, that's what 100% sold me on getting the Sportster S, because I rode the 2022 model. Granted, that one had mid controls, which I wasn't a fan of because I'm 6'5". And I rode the Fat Bob as well, which they told me was very similar to the stock Sportster S due to the forward controls on it. Fat Bob was awesome, but the Revo Max engine was the game changer for me. The speed that it had, switching between the different modes, the tachometer and the digital stuff, like, I love that stuff. So that sold me on the bike, and I'm glad I did my research. I'm glad I didn't take the first deal presented to me, which I could have at that Harley dealership that I won't talk about, but I didn't. Sometimes you gotta be patient and find the right deal, but don't be afraid to walk away. So what's up, man? So yeah, that's all I got for today. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and then hit the bell for me, and I look forward to making more content.